I got a hot one for you today. Now, I got a hot one for you today. Yes, I do. Marquis Bilson here, Tri-City Sports. Now, I don't mean the program. I've got some breaking news, and I'm going to start this off with, well, here's the deal. You know, the Chicago School of Journalism? The Chicago School of Journalism says this. If your mother tells you that she loves you, check it out. I've got one good source. So I'm trying to figure out exactly how I can do this without possibly making a mistake. And for that matter, covering my own behind, okay? But let me just put it this way. Do not look for Cade Weldon to be in the Buccaneers' plans this football season. Yes, it is Marquis Bilson, your voice of choice for a new generation of Tri-City Sports fans, and the name of the program is Tri-City Sports. Now, you know what we do? We own the Tri-Cities on 1420 WEMB Sports Radio. Got two great guests today. Jerry Bonkowski comes on at 1 p.m., and he's going to talk to me about NASCAR. Off week in NASCAR. They're going to go to Darlington this Sunday, the retro color schemes, but a lot of other stuff going on in NASCAR to talk about some rainy day topics, that sort of thing. I've got actually one of the things we were talking about, which was, the political correctness of the sports world, if you will, or the political correctness of the world, where, there is a feeling of, what are the rules anymore? Tell us what the rules are, we'll do them. That's fine. It's just that it seems like the rules are changed and we don't know what they are. And maybe it's the Twitterverse, maybe, actually political correctness goes far beyond, before Twitter and all this, but nevertheless. Want to just say that, but let me just say that anyway, we've got some stories relating to that with NASCAR with Jerry Bonkowski. 1:30, I'm real excited about this. SoCon John Hooper, of course, he joins me at 1:30 every Monday, but the Southern Conference football season is about to begin. ETSU is a 32.5-point dog to Appalachian State this Saturday. Should point this out, they were a 37.5-point dog to Tennessee last year. You know how that turned out. Yeah, 59-3, right? Okay. But one of the reasons maybe, and Appalachian State is going to be down one of their best receivers. By the way, something else. I want to tell you, we got, for this opening week of football season, a lot of great guests lined up. I told you what we have today. I told you, of course, Asian House Vols Talk with Caleb Calhoun of All for Tennessee is on tomorrow. And he's got the Vols at 7-5 this year, but we will talk, of course, about the arrest that's gone on with the defensive secondary. You've probably read about it on our 1420 WEMB Sports Radio Facebook page. Wednesday, got a great show. I've got the mayor of Kingsport talking about a potential new ballpark there. And I also, who else do we have there on Wednesday? I got them all written down, I guess, right here. Let's see who else we got there. Joe Rexroad. I used to tell you he was the best sports columnist in the state. You know who agrees with me? The National Sports Media Association. They named him that top sports writer in the state a couple of months ago. Thursday, I got Steve Baer, himself a pretty good sports writer up there at the Watauga Democrat in Boone. He covers Appalachian State. They're down a receiver. I'll tell you more about that. And then the legendary Bill Curry, former Alabama coach, former Georgia State coach. I like to have a legend of the team that Tennessee is going to play on the show. Be it a former coach. Who better than the guy that started the program about 10 years ago at Georgia State than Bill Curry? Man who John Robert Bell made him a football player. There you go. But as I began the show telling you about, don't look for Cade Weldon to be in the Buccaneers' plans this season. A quarterback transferred from Miami this offseason to ETSU, but he was injured in the first scrimmage. 3 passes he threw, he did not return. Sources that I'm talking to now say Weldon has suffered an injury that'll likely keep him out whole year. And to be honest with you, if he could come back from it the whole year, at the end of the year, season would be established. Either Bucks are winning and Chance Thrasher is the quarterback, or they're losing, and why even, go with the year of eligibility. So Weldon's probably not, Weldon will not be a factor in the Buccaneers season in 2019. So, as I said, Chance Thrasher is going to be the QB. It looks like Cam Lewis is going to be his backup. There's no way in the world Randy Thrasher, and I know they have, it's Chance Thrasher, Randy Sanders. I'm getting the names mixed up. I know Randy Sanders is talking right now and maybe releasing this as we speak, but the fact of the matter is there's no way that he's not playing Thrasher. I mean, if he doesn't, what would it mean that you'd have 3 quarterbacks come to ETSU since Randy Sanders was here transferring? Imagine that, Carl Torbush. And Torbush had transfers, he just didn't like JUCOs, that sort of thing. So, Steve Forbes did. I wonder, what the philosophy was. And strangely, I'm the only guy that ever mentioned, you see some sort of dichotomy here, and it's the same, nobody ever calls this out. Well, it's one sport and the other, Marky. Yeah, it's the same school, though. And you've got this one guy, no JUCOs. And then this other guy, I'm a former JUCO coach. Where can I put them on my team? One guy wins with the JUCOs, one guy loses without them. You tell me. Anyway, as I said, Thrasher, he's got to be the quarterback. I mean, they cannot, here's the deal, you'd have 3 FBS quarterbacks coming into ETSU. And we can talk about the specific circumstances and blah, blah, blah. But if Thrasher doesn't start, if they go with one of the freshmen, then consider this. Who would ever transfer to ETSU again from the FBS? Who? I can't imagine anyone would. On top of that, you'd be talking about Logan Marchie, Chance Thrasher, and Cade Weldon. Mentally, Weldon's hurt. But you're talking 3 quarterbacks. And if Thrasher doesn't start against Appalachian State, which he's got to, it's time to name that. I hope he's naming it right now. Thrasher's the QB. I mean, why not? What would it mean that none of those guys would wind up as a starting quarterback at ETSU? 4-game experiment with Marchie notwithstanding. It would mean, as I said before, no FBS quarterback would ever transfer to ETSU again. At least not as while Randy Sanders is the coach. Now, that's not the end of the world. You could do a whole lot worse if you're ETSU than Chance Thrasher. He hasn't overwhelmed in scrimmages, but he's not been the one that throws the picks. And he is a former starter, albeit briefly, at Coastal Carolina, FBS school. And he actually played last year, very briefly, a few plays, against Appalachian State. Got some experience. There you go. By the way, 2015, he was ranked the 47th best quarterback in the country coming into college football from Scout.com. What that means, I don't know. I mean, what does it mean to be the 47th best in anything? It's meaningless by now, but it's nice to put on the bio. Anyway, as much as Sanders likes to throw the ball, I got to tell you something, Coach. Take note here. Your success this year is going to come from winning 13-10 games, assuming you can find a kicker. Could be 2 touchdowns and missing the extra point that way, folks. I mean, it's not going to come from winning 28-10 games as much as you like it, and certainly not 28-21 games. Buccaneers have the best defense in the SoCon. They break bones. ETSU has the best running game in a conference. Jacob Sawyers, Bray Holmes, Malik McHugh coming in from Army by way of Science Hill. That's going to help. Best running game in a conference. The problem is the uncertainty at receiver and at quarterback. So it would benefit ETSU to run more than pass this year. No big deal there. It's not modern, but so what? It's not Sanders' preferred style of offense, but so what? Now, somebody might come up with the stats and say, Marky, they ran the ball more than they threw last year, and that's the way it might look to the layperson. 413 rushes compared to 379 passes. But the Buccaneers also suffered 30 sacks. And you got to remember that in college football, they count a sack as a running play. Don't ask me why. NFL doesn't, but high school and college does. And so, that means they actually attempted to throw more passes, just, allowed 30 sacks, that's all. The other thing you ought to know is that Austin Herink wasn't running a whole lot of bootlegs last year. So, he's credited for 74 rushing attempts. And I think Marchie had 20-odd rushing attempts. Basically, the ETSU quarterbacks had 100 rushing attempts, okay? I think somewhere around in there, give or take. So we take the 30 sacks away, and that's what? Give or take 70. There weren't a whole lot of naked bootlegs being called last year. I mean, you're talking about 70 rushing attempts. You're talking about, tucking it under your wing because the protection wasn't there, and you're trying to scramble. 33 yards against Tennessee if you're Austin Herink, if you remember that play. Okay. So they really did try to throw more than they passed last year under Randy Sanders. They should ETSU this year. Okay, run the ball left, run the ball right. That can be boring, I get it. But it plays to the team's strengths. Selliers averaged 7 yards a carry last year. You know he can break off some long ones. And the other thing is that it'll likely have ETSU win the turnover battles because I'm inclined to believe that front seven will force some fumbles and the defensive backfield will get some picks. Now, let's remember some ETSU history here. ETSU, Paul Hamilton came to ETSU 1997, and everybody said, he's gonna install the option. And at times he did. But Hamilton was able to forge winning seasons with an undermanned roster that catered to his offense. Well, he catered his offense to the strengths of the team, is what I'm trying to say. And so, sometimes Todd Wells ran an option. Well, sometimes he was taking a 7-step drop. It was funny. The offense might change play to play on a single drive. But it worked. Because ETSU back then only had 59 football scholarships. Everybody else in the conference had 63. And yet, Hamilton was able to forge winning records more times than not. He had three losing seasons. One was the going out of business sale. In the final year, you can't blame him on that. Another was 98, when really that's a tough one to blame him for too, because they had to play Miami and Mississippi State, both who had pretty good teams that year, and lost badly to both of them. Nobody expected them to win those games. You schedule FCS teams, or Division I AA as they were known back then, and instead of the big boys, Power 5 conference teams, ETSU could go 6-5 that year. Wouldn't have put them in the playoffs, but remember, we're talking about 59 scholarships versus everybody else's 63. But it boils down to this, folks. ETSU's strengths this year, the ground game. Sanders should unquestionably cater his offense to this strength. One of the strengths of Unicoi County's offense, that was a disappointing game Friday night for the people listening in on 1420 WEMB Sports Radio. A 28-7 defeat, but Diego Diaz emerged as something of an unsung hero, if you will, in a 3-touchdown loss. If you can have an unsung hero in a 3-touchdown loss. Basically, he had as good, if not better, of a game than last year's 2,000-yard rusher Cody Lewis. So, it deserves to be said right there. But I want to thank some of the sponsors of Unicoi County football this year, including Christian Care Center of Irwin and Dr. Jason Cunningham, who's a fine dentist right there on Main Street. Of course, I've told you before what assisted living did for my grandparents. So check it out if you are elderly and need some assistance. Tri-City Sports Now. Vols talk after this.
All-American savings at Neighborhood Ford. Right now, save up to $5,000 off MSRP on new 2019 Ford EcoSports. And discounts to save up to $10,000 off MSRP on new 2019 Ford Expeditions at Neighborhood Ford. You'll find selection, savings, and service when you shop Neighborhood Ford. From our neighborhood to yours, Neighborhood Ford. 901 North Main in Irwin. Or shop online at neighborhoodford.net.
Marky Bilson for Asian House, home of the Happy Box meal, featuring plentiful appetizers and rice around your choice of 20 mouth-watering Chinese dishes. Or try their Japanese fare, sushi, sashimi, and the grill. I had my birthday dinner at Asian House and was most satisfied. Find the great menu and deals at goasianhouse.com. Use Tom for catering. You'll be most satisfied too. Asian House, nestled in the Shops on West Market on the way to Jonesboro. Mention 1420 WEMB Sports Radio and get 10% off.
Here's a sports flash from 1420 WEMB Sports Radio, powered by Jeep. The Tennessee Titans lose to the Steelers yesterday by an 18-6 score. Just one more preseason game to go. That's going to be coming up on Thursday when the Titans visit Chicago. Very few, if any,